Hey guys, my name is Gabe, and for the next month, I'm going to be watching one movie every single day. Welcome to day 5 of my month of movies. Today I watched Wes Anderson's The Isle of Dogs. Recently I was traveling in Ireland with my family, and I realized that on Disney Plus, most of Wes Anderson's films were actually available because we were in a different country, which they're not in the States. They're kind of scattered across all streaming platforms, and some of them you had to rent. So I took the opportunity to watch as many as I could. I watched Rushmore, Royal Tenenbaums, Life Aquatic, the Darjeeling Limited, and might have done one or two others. I think I started on The French Dispatch. I really kind of try to dive into his filmography as much as possible. I was kind of reminded how much I love his work. I'd seen a few of his films before, and one of my favorite films has been Fantastic Mr. Fox, just because it's so unique and quirky, and there's no other movies like it that I could think of. So when I got back and I found out Isle of Dogs was on Disney Plus, one I hadn't seen yet, I decided I'd check it off my list because it's one of those movies that every time it comes up on TikTok or YouTube or something, I always think, man, I should have watched that film. Like, I really got to get around to it, and I never do. So I decided to check it off. I did really like it. It wasn't my favorite Wes Anderson film. I definitely think Fantastic Mr. Fox is the better of the two animated films that he's made. But I still really liked the art style of it, and I liked the way that the characters looked. The color palette was really cool. As far as the story goes, I didn't think there was too much there. I wasn't super hooked by the story. Usually I'm not necessarily in Wes Anderson films. There's a few exceptions to that, but in this case, I wasn't really so much hooked by the story as I was by the art style of the film and the music and the color palette. But in terms of story, the premise is that in Japan there's a mass deportation of dogs following an outbreak of a dog pandemic I think it's called snout rot or snout fever. And so all these dogs are deported to an island off the coast of Japan called Trash Island. It kind of becomes this like wasteland where all the dogs live. And then I think it's the nephew of the emperor goes to find his dog, so he flies his plane and crashes it onto the island. So he's like the main human protagonist. Other than that, most of the story takes place on the island following this pack of dogs. It kind of cuts back and forth between mainland, what's going on with the government, and there's like big protests like in favor of the dogs, and then a lot of people want to deport the dogs. There's some political messaging in there in terms of the mass deportation and the political divide in the country of Japan. I don't think they dove into it as deeply as they could have necessarily. Then again, I think it's still supposed to keep the energy of a lighthearted kids film. Yeah, overall I really most of what I liked about the film was happening in the setting of the island of trash. I just really thought that was a cool setting, and I thought the characters of the dogs were just so funny and charming to follow. So I don't have too much else to say about this film. I don't know where I'd rank it in terms of Wes Anderson films. My favorite is Life Aquatic, followed closely by Fantastic Mr. Fox. But I think I would rate this behind the Darjeeling Limited. One of these days I'll sit down and make a tier list of all the Wes Anderson films once I finish the last few ones that I need to watch. So I think I just need to watch Bottle Rocket, French Dispatch, Moonrise Kingdom, and Asteroid City. But other than that, I'm almost positive I've seen all his films, unless there's one that I'm forgetting. So one of these days I'll sit down and make a video. I apologize for not posting in the past few days. I've been traveling all around the state with family and friends as school's about to start back up again for my senior year, but I have still kept up with the challenge of watching a movie a day. I just haven't been able to sit down and edit the videos that I'm recording. I do really appreciate anyone that is watching and sticking in there. I promise I'll keep up on the challenge, and once I get into the routine of school, it should be a little bit easier to keep up with the daily videos. But I do promise I am watching a movie a day. I have not fallen behind on that challenge. So that's all I have to say. I would rank this movie 7 out of 10. That is what I have to say about Wes Anderson's The Isle of Dogs. See ya.